So next, I like to introduce you our next speaker. She is Barbara Erling. Barbara comes from Poland, is a Polish journalist, and currently is working for Press. Barbara was also a ex-Google News Initiative Fellow. Barbara will explain us today why audio is serving as an alternative to a growing politicized media in Poland. Barbara, very welcome to NIS Audio.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I wasn't sure if my earplugs works. So hello, I'm happy to join you today. So you introduced everything, so I will just start the presentation.
So please start and share your presentation.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll talk about the audio projects as an alternative for politicized media in Poland. So I will bring you some information first to equalize the knowledge. So in short, there are 38 million citizens in Poland. The internet penetration is 78%. Trust in news has actually fallen by 3 percentage points this year. So only 45% of Poles trust in news, which is bad, but it's not the worst, actually. 86% of Poles identify online as their main source of news. Television is the second one. More and more Poles pay for online news. The digital news report revealed that already 20% paid for online news content last year, while in France, for example, or in Germany, it was only 10%. And very bad news, Poland fell to its lowest ever position in Reporters Without Borders index. So Poland was classified as having a noticeable problem with press freedom, and the organization indicates that this is mostly due to current government action, which affect the freedom of expression of independent media outlets. So if you already know some basics, let's dive deeper. We have a rapid growth of podcast and online radio market in Poland. So actually, Poland is one of the fastest growing podcast markets in Europe, and the coronavirus have even more increased the growth. According to Voxnest, for the study of Voxnest for Spotify, at the end of April, this year, a podcast popularity in Europe increased by 53%, while in Poland, it was over 300% more compared to the same period last year. The same study says that the most popular genres of podcasts in Poland are comedy, stories, arts and entertainment, news and politics, and education. But not only podcasts have seen a surge in popularity, it was also online radio. So according to Get News and international research company data, in the first week of lockdown alone, the number of online radio listeners rose by 60%. The increase is even more pronounced for mobile users, whose number grew by 23%. And the total range of mobile online radio has increased by over 24%. So it's quite a lot. More and more people decided to move to online radio, which I will talk about it later. It made also, yeah. Anyway, but so due to that, many people see the growing potential of the internet and of the internet online radio. Sorry, I'm super stressed. Sorry. of the internet radio market. In the last 12 months, 5 online radio projects have launched, which are Radio Spazia, Halo Radio, Radio Capital, Radio New World, and Radio 357. So actually, it all sounds great, but there is an issue in Poland which disrupts the media industry. And the issue is, as you said, politicization of the Polish media. So actually, since the fall of communism, Poland has developed a plural but highly polarized media environment. After elections in 2015, when current right-wing government took over power, this polarization has become even stronger. And since the ruling Law and Justice Party offers direct or indirect support to pro-government media and targets critical journalists. Also, the public media have become formally renamed national media and have been transformed into government propaganda mouthpiece. But I have to be a devil's advocate. So actually, in Poland, we lack the tradition of an editorially independent public service media. So public television and radio broadcasters tend to favor those in power. It was always like this. But actually, this case is more true for the current government. So probably you may know what's going on in Hungary. So some critics say that Poland actually mimics Hungary in terms of coping with the media, but it's not the best example, obviously, but we do it. So critics in Poland say that Poland is fast heading down the Hungarian path. So first, state media becomes simply a mouthpiece for the government. Journalists are hampered by legal restrictions and political pressure from speaking truth. So there is this Polish daily newspaper, Gazeta Wyborcza. They are actually the leading target of government lawsuits. And since 2015, when the current government took over power, it has had 55 lawsuits so far. The other thing is that private media groups, so also Gazeta Wyborcza, complained that they lost advertising contracts from state-owned companies because they have shifted their spendings to pro-government media outlets. And those moves also echoes what Viktor Orban did in 2011. He brought in rules that allowed only his government to punish media organization for unbalance or insulting coverage. So it's like he actually told the state-owned companies not to give any money from the advertising to these outlets who are against him and his government. In Poland, the foreign companies hold a dominant position in Polish market, and the fact actually entered in the political debate a few years ago. So for the past few years, leaders of Law and Justice Party have talked about 2 new laws one to repolonize media and other to deconcentrate private media. Neither has passed so far, but the two bills could become law within weeks. Actually, the government told that until the end of this year, they're going to pass the laws, because there's only German narrative in Poland, so we have to change that. But hardly any big media company needs the concentrating, because the Polish market is already fragmented. But there is one exception in regional dailies. 20 out of 24 of them are owned by German publishing group, Verlagsgruppe Passau. Sorry for my German. Yeah, but this group owns the biggest number of the regional dailies. And although most of these papers have relatively small circulation, they're very important for the ruling party, because the readers are from rural parts of Poland. They're very Catholic, so that's the voters. That's where their power come from. So Verlagsgruppe Passau told The Economist to be in talks with Orlen, the state-owned petrol retailer, about the sale of Polska Press, its Polish arm. So probably we're gonna have repolonized, deconcentrated media. Hopefully not. So yeah, and moreover, the Polish government pressure not only private but also public media, which helped it to win the presidential elections this year. And under the new regulation adopted by the Polish radio in July, all employees are systematically required to notify management about any contacts with or invitations by other media in which they obviously are forbidden to appear and talk without the management's prior consent. And if they are given the permission, they're forbidden to express any political, ethical, or religious views. Yeah, and so the increasing politicization of the Polish media, and especially state radio service, has led to an exodus of some of its most popular and longest serving stars. Some have tried going solo, but some clubbed together to launch a new project. One of them is Radio Nowy Świat. This is the project was funded by crowdfunding campaign and embraced new technologies, and they got rid of being politicized. Yeah, but let's start with the beginning. How did it happen? So it all started in January when the long-serving journalist Dariusz Rosiak did not get the extension of his contract. He was working there for 16 years. Of course, he didn't got any reason for his dismissal. Unofficially, the radio management didn't like his statements about Donald Trump. Rosiak called him populist, so they didn't like it, and he also participated in some programs on liberal television. So that was the undercover reason, but the normal reason was just they don't want to work with him anymore. So the journalist, his departure was followed by a stream of further layoffs. In March, Anna Gacek, who had worked for Polish radio for almost 2 decades, left Polish radio too. She was joined by the legendary journalist Wojciech Mann, who had been employed there for 50 years, and he actually built one of the channels. So that was a big hit for the audience of the Polish Radio Free. That was the channel, and that was a huge outcry. People were demanding them to be back. They were crying because they actually loved the atmosphere. They loved the journalists there. They loved the music. Everything was like the perfect setup for them to just sit down and listen. So that was a big hit for them. But in mid-April, the good news came, in April there was a big news that the former journalists of Polish radio and the management launched a crowdfunding campaign to create new online radio, and the radio was called New World. And this radio became the most successful crowdfunding campaign in Poland, and actually after delaying the launch, because the launch was set for another day, one presenter became ill with the coronavirus, so they had to change it. But they launched on 10th of July, and the demand was so big that the servers were overloaded, and not everyone could actually listen to the radio. On the day of its debut, it had almost 500,000 listeners. So that was huge, really. That was super huge, and everyone talked about that. Now they have over 30,000 so-called patrons, because they did a crowdfunding campaign on Patronite. So the supporters who give the money on this platform are called patrons. And they actually support them financially. They have enough money to work. So yeah, sorry for that. I got an email. So actually, New World has so far raised 4.6 million zloty, which is around 1 million euro, and it's is currently the biggest online radio in Poland. That was built on the issue of politicization, and many experts believe that the success of the project is politically and emotionally motivated, and if it weren't tied to politics, it wouldn't be so successful. I would also say that it was also due to the coronavirus, because it accelerated the growth of online radio and also changed the way we consume media, because before that, before the coronavirus, we mostly listened to the radio while commuting, and now as we are locked down again, we can listen to it also home. There's no need to turn it on, especially in a car or whatever. So the Radio New World mostly rely on crowdfunding, which is for Poland is a quite new alternative business model. to fund media, but it gives financial independence, at least from politicians. However, they consider sponsored programs too, because, as they say, it is non-invasive format. They don't want to have any advertisements. I can understand that, because sometimes, like the state-owned company can come and be like, we have a lot of money for you, but yeah, just don't talk about, I don't know, the certain issues we have in Poland. What they also rise the new generation of young presenters. Additionally to the stars like Wojciech Mann, they made a talent contest, and they chose a few young journalists that they present online. And besides music, its creators want to focus on commentaries. They promise that they will not invite politicians. Instead, they will focus on specialists. This is quite, I would say, it's innovative decision, and brave. They have to be super brave, because as you might have heard, in Poland, we really care about what's going on in politics. But yeah, it works now. So no politicians may also work. The Radio New World also gives an example to others who want to do independent media. A few weeks ago, other part of laid-off journalists, of those who decided to leave, the Polish radio, have launched the crowdfunding campaign to found Radio 357. I told about it before. So it seems that since they got succeeded in building radio based on this business model, there are also others who want to try themselves in doing that. Questions?
Yes, we have a question from our next speaker, David. So David asks you, how do people listen to podcasts in Poland? I know the DNR numbers, but wonder if you, Barbara, have some internal numbers from some Polish research agency. And which is number one, Apple or Spotify?
Spotify, definitely. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't have the data, but from my perspective and from what I hear from my friends and so on, I think the Spotify is number one, definitely. But that's yeah.
Yeah, and then he asked, the first question was, how many people listen to podcasts in Poland? Do you know some internal numbers from some Polish research agency?
I'm not sure if we have it. If there, I didn't see any numbers of how many podcast listeners we have in Poland. I bet it's not so many. As I said, the number is growing, but yeah, I don't know. Sorry. I'll send you the message later, David.
We'll put you in touch if you want, David and Barbara, later. We have another question from Sarah Pink. Sarah asked, despite the politicization of Polish media, there still seems to be a rise in online radio media. How and why do you think this medium managed to become so popular?
I think that's what I also said, that the journalists and the management these people who made the radio, who built the radio, they're famous. So they already have a certain number of followers, of fans, who liked what they did. So despite the politicization, I think the people brought the audience there.
So I have myself a question for you. You know that I live in Poland last year and I worked there. And do you think, or are you, I mean, do you think in the future that maybe the government will go after these new ways of audio, of doing this democratic journalism, if these bills pass by the end of this year?
Mm-hmm.
But they are not national owned.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard question, actually. It's hard to because it's crowdfunded, so it's founded by the people. So it's hard to change people's minds to make them not pay for the radio. The only idea I have on mind is to actually make a law on how the crowdfunding campaigns work. So that's the only way. I don't think it will happen soon. We have coronavirus, and we're gonna have a huge problem with the market. So people gonna lose jobs and stuff. So I think they're gonna have more things to do than just getting rid of online radio, not so not favorable to their politics.
Good. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for your time and for sharing how audio is serving as a democratic tool to Poland, to journalism. And we hope that it continues this path. So thank you so much for being here today and for sharing with us your knowledge.